Hello guys and welcome back to TNT Madness. Today we are going to be looking at checker lists or checklists. And these are just really normal walls with no real purpose other than helping you identify if someone's raided you. And this is really useful, even though it doesn't make your wall inherently stronger, and the fact it's a sand wall may annoy you if you use wraps all the time, because then you have to place tons of sand, even though sand walls are quite strong. But checker lists or checklists are extremely useful because it means you can go around the outside of your base. You don't have to spend like 6 hours or 20 minutes going around your huge base. If you have like a 20 chunk base, you can just go set your home in one spot and just have a look at your checklist. And what happens here is you really check to see if your redstone's on, and if it's on, then you're not raided, and if it's off, then you are raided. And I'll explain more of this in a sec, but it's really just a really easy way to help you keep track if people have raided you, because most people, when they have a massive faction base, is they find it really hard to keep track of if they're being raided or not. So you can have several of these checkboxes around your base, especially at your very end wall, and just see if someone's raided you and just find out where they have, and then you can destroy their cannon, cobble monster, whatever you want to do. But they're really, really useful. So let's actually explain how these work. Also, for everyone wondering, I have no idea where those slimes came from. I guess I was just on a slime spawn chunk. But anyway, this is generally how you would set up your walls. Think of this as a super miniature base, and we've got 4 versions here. We've got like a miniature base, another one, but with this against the border. And if you want an example of a base like this, I did an near unraidable base, a 6 chunk base where it's like this. And this is right against a wall, so it also had checker boxes on it too. And I've been meaning to do this video for quite a while. But anyway, think of these as your bases. So you'd have them on your outside wall, and if you have a really huge base, you might put them on the middle. But essentially how these work is you'll have either a really solid line of redstone, or you'll have one that's flickering. It doesn't really matter, I just prefer the solid one because that way you can tell instantly, and you don't have to wait a few seconds for it to keep going past. And an added bonus is you don't get seizures every time you walk past here. So to explain how this works, I'm just going to hybrid this. So if I just get rid of the barrier block I have there, and place down and do like a really Bundy hybrid. So if we hybrid this, we can see it is going to blow up the wall. And as you can see, sand walls of course technically repair themselves. But as you can see now, there is a huge gap here. But let's say you are 4 chunks away from that or something, and you are way over here. Then you'll go, oh, this redstone is off, and that'd be sad. So probably quite a few people, especially experienced players, know what checkboxes, how they work. But this is really useful because it mostly just means you can be on the other side of your base and check. And an added bonus is if you stand on like the very edge here and set a home, then at the start of your day you could just go home, I don't know, top base check, I don't know, check 1 or something. Have a look here, wait here for 5 seconds or something. It'll probably be off if someone has raided you, unless you're extremely unlucky with the worst timing. And then go, oh, that's fine, and then just do that for 5 seconds every day. So that is really useful. But one difference is if you have it on a corner base, whether it's on the edge of the world or the very corner, which would mean this would be a quarter, checker boxes are a bit different. And most people actually don't do checker boxes on these just because of how annoying it is to make. It's actually not that hard, but it means you do have to have 2 sand walls. And the reason for this is because you can't do a massive curve around the back of your base unless you want to be that one noob that has, for some reason, blocks behind the world border or on the edge of the world, depending if it's solid, virtual, or whatever. If you have a water curtain, that's even better. But you don't really want to be that guy. So generally you would have 2 walls on the very outer part of your base that will have them going around in a pattern where they go around like normal, and then when they meet up at the end, you'll have an extra sand wall going here, and then it'll continue going around. So this is good and bad because it means you have 2 sand walls, but it does mean that if they have shot through the first wall, that is slightly harder to identify. Of course, it's quite easy to identify because you just see where the redstone isn't. But I'll show you what I mean. If we hybrid this, and get rid of this, of course, then one thing you're going to notice is this sand's going to be gone, but you'll probably notice that the sand on this wall is still intact, so it makes it just slightly harder to identify. And one other thing you're probably wondering is, why do we have these blocks along the top? And this is so people can't just go ahead and dry bust, or whatever you want to call it, just dry shoot. It's pretty much just firing a piece of TNT straight at your thing, and anyone can make a super basic TNT cannon. Even people that play survival can. And they'll just blow up your redstone and create a placebo effect, which is not really what you want. So we have this. This is generally obsidian because you really want it hard to be destroyed, but you can make it any old block. But it's ideal to make it obsidian because most people won't destroy this top layer unless they're trying to troll you anyway. So it's not an issue. And for some reason, there's pieces going on here. So these are just essentially bases without the holes, and you can see what a proper checkerboard looks like. And as you probably get from this point, you're probably sick of me rambling, but they're really simple to make. They're essentially just sand walls and a ton of repeaters and a redstone line. But anyway, let's get on the tutorial because there's a bit more than just that to explain. I'll also show you how to bring this into your base. So now onto the tutorial. So there's quite a few ways to make this. The first way you can make it is you can have the outside sand wall, and I wouldn't recommend that because you can't place water over top of it. And then the next one is you can place a sand wall here and have water on the edge here. And then the one after that is you can have one here if you have this against the very edge and have your outer one just be sand. But it's alright, but still not that great. And then there's the one where you would have water, you would have your sand wall, water, sand wall, and then water if you have it against the edge. So I would never recommend, to be honest, having a wall where it's just sand on the end, because that makes it a lot easier to raid, and unless you're on very, very tight space constraints, I would not recommend it. You're also going to need redstone, repeaters, and a ton of sand, and if you're on any server, including mine, you should be able to buy sand really cheaply. And of course you'll need water, and if you're building a base like this, then you should have all this anyway, but you will need redstone and repeaters. You won't need that many repeaters depending how big your base is, because you're making a big circle with them, but you will need quite a bit of redstone. So the first thing you want to do is actually lay out the area of where you're going to be placing your checker box. You've probably already got the rest of your base sorted out, at least at the bottom level, so this shouldn't be an issue if you've already done that. I'll probably do a tutorial later on explaining how you should actually lay out your base when you're building it. But anyway, for this, what you want to do is lay out your first block. So depending if you are building if you're building a square base or you're building a corner base, just ignore the sand for the proprietary one, because it won't apply. The red sand won't apply for the square one, and this normal sand won't apply for the corner one. So to start off with, you just want to place out one giant square of sand on the very outside, making sure there is at least one block from your border or one block away from where your outside wall is, or your distance, even if you have like 6 or 10 land extra. And if you are building a corner wall, then you want to pretty much cut off any point from here and then just build it from the corner, but build it inwards one block from your other wall. So it's very, very simple, but for the rest of the tutorial, I'm just going to be doing the square wall, but the same rules apply. So the next part I'd recommend you do is you should always build this at sky limit. So whether your base is a sky base that only goes from Y200 to Y255 or from 0 to sky limit, you always want to build the top part at sky limit, or else it will have essentially no effectiveness, because it'll be super easy to destroy your checkbox. So with most bases, I'd recommend that you build them at sky limit anyway. I did a video way back when explaining why sky bases are the best, and building ones from the top to the bottom are even better. So the first thing I would recommend you do is build scaffolding, but in my opinion, the best way to build scaffolding is one that is one block higher than your actual sand wall. So it's going to be here, and then you just want to place it one block out. So this is actually going to be your top protector bit. So you're essentially going to be placing down your protector bit as your scaffolding, which is really useful because it takes out one step. So that really just shortens the length of time it will take you to make this. So the next thing you want to do is, the reason we're having the scaffolding is because it's really easy to place sand. You can just AFK here if you want, and then just place all your sand up to your limit. Make sure it's one block below sky limit so you can place the redstone on it. And it should look something like this. So after that, you just want to finish your scaffolding and place all the sand round until it gets to the proper height. So now, once you've done that, it should look something like this, whether your base is at 255 or anything like that with a giant border around the edge like so. It doesn't matter if you do different scaffolding, but I definitely recommend that you make the border now before you place any of your redstone in. But now once you've done that, what you want to do is you want to go out a few blocks with some scaffolding and place down a redstone torch or redstone block or some sort of redstone powered device, whether it's a lever button. Definitely not a button actually, but just something that's powered. And then what you want to do is place down a piece of redstone, then a repeater in front of it, and if it's right against the corner, then place the redstone along here, and then place a repeater here. Now what you want to do is you want to place redstone in a straight line until you actually reach the point where you have to place a repeater. So that would be this point here because the redstone is not powered, and this just means you use the least amount of repeaters. If you know exactly how long the redstone length is, then good for you. I've been doing redstone for far too long and I still can't get it perfectly every time. But anyway, you just want to keep going around your whole base. This may take a while if you're doing it by yourself, but so does building a base. So you just want to continue doing this until you eventually reach a loop. And there are two ways to do this, which I'll explain in a second. So now we have finished our loop. There's no way it's going to be 15 redstone long. So you can have your checkerboard be like this, and then if you want to test it out, it's pretty much done because it's solid. The second way you can have a checklist is if the redstone is broken like this, and then you have it powered for a second, and then you can make it pulsating. So for example like this. You can have it pulsating around, and then when, let's say, a redstone or sand breaks, it will take an extra second for it to actually come around, and this is amplified when you have a huge base. So I just recommend a solid signal. But that's your choice. I'm not going to tell you how to build your base because you're probably not here. Well, I guess you are here for me to tell you how to build your base, but I'm not going to be telling you exactly how to build your base. So this part is really simple. And that's pretty much the whole checker box finished. But the next part I want to show you is just a little add-on for your base. So let's say this was your wall. Let's say this is the very top. Of course, you may have a wall here and water here. You just want to place over top of it. You may have wraps and all that, but I'd recommend that you just have some sort of redstone thing going to, let's say, the middle of your base. But then you just want to grab your redstone signal from here and then bring it to the middle. So let's say this top bit is your roof. It is the very top of your base. There's one thing you want to make sure there is no gaps in your base at all, or you're going to have a hard time because people can just ender pearl through it. So what you want to do is you want to have your repeater going into some powered block. Even if you have to deter your water, it will make your base slightly weaker, but it shouldn't be too big of an issue even if you're building an absolute massive base. So what you want to do is find where the redstone is going to be powered, and you want to test it by placing this. And then what you can do now is you can either make a redstone torch tower, upside down torch tower, which it goes like this. For anyone that has never made one, it goes like this. It is too wide, it's not one wide. But you place redstone there, you place redstone down, and then you place another redstone, and then you keep doing that. And what this will do is it will allow you to create a redstone torch tower. So if it is on, what I preferably like to do is make it off, so that way you can have a row of lamps like so. And that way, if you have like 5 checklists, then you could have like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then when it gets destroyed, this will light up, and you'll be in your base. You won't be anywhere near threat, and you can just instantly tell if you are being raided or not. Of course, it is a lot more complex than this, but this is just a very simple and miniature way of explaining how this works. And as you can see, checker boxes are really useful. So if you haven't heard of these before, and you do have a moderately big base, do yourself a favor and build this. It will save you more time than it took to build this in the future, and it looks really cool, and it makes you look like you know what you're doing, which is what I've been trying to do with this YouTube channel for ages, even though I mostly don't. That I don't really know. But it looks really cool as well, just if you're showing someone that's in your base. But anyway, hope you guys did enjoy these videos. If you want to see more, hit that like button. And if you really like seeing these types of videos and TNT Cannon, hit that subscribe button. You'll see 3 or 4 videos a week. But anyway, goodbye from TNT Madness.